Raider Nation, it's time. This is the Raiders Squad. Sponsored by Game Time. Everything Las Vegas Raiders every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from the Death Star in the desert. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Commitment to excellence starts here. The Raiders Squad Show starts now.
Hey, what's up, Raider Nation? Welcome back to the Raider Squad Show. Remember, if you like the content, hit that like and subscribe button. You can also follow us on our social media channels. You'll see in the description below the ways that you can connect with us. Also, remember, you can find us on the audio side as well. So wherever you got, a couple of minutes, leave a rate and review. That also helps the channel grow as well. And remember, Raider Nation, we're always looking for the show to be interactive. So make sure you drop your comments as well. And we might actually get a couple of them on the show today if they are really good. But nonetheless, we appreciate you, Raider Nation. You continue to help this show grow and also the channel. So we do appreciate you rocking with us. Before we get into everything today, just a quick reminder. This episode today is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. All right, lots to get into. We're going to be talking about Pete Carroll making some bold statements, the wide receiver room, and also Ashton Jeanty getting some big comparisons. We're going to get into that later into the show. Before we get into everything, though, guys, how was your weekend? Obviously, lots of Raiders news came out. Link, we'll go with you first. Rocking another fire tee. I was telling him before we hopped on here, like he's raising the barbecue.
Yeah, he is.
Legends never die. Shout out to Kobe Bryant, may he rest in heaven. Here's the thing. Weekend was good. I'm excited about this time of year because a little bit of a transition period, as you guys know. We still have baseball going on. You have a little bit of basketball in their various games, but it's football season, and I am ready to go. And the Raiders got me fired up this past weekend by having their mock game. Overhaul scrimmage at Allegiant, and I was told, Q, there was probably some 18,000 fans there in attendance. Yes. What'd you say there?
Something like that. It was told to me there was supposed to be like 20,000 there. To me, it looked like it was around 10 to 15, but I was told it was 18. So there you go. But it was fun just to go through a game day type situation. And Link, I think more importantly than the play on the field, it was doing that. It was going through getting to the locker room, getting your pads on, getting your stretching, like what time you have to do this. I mean, look, there was even the coin toss was in the mock game, right? Pete Carroll threw a challenge flag. So it was very game day and game ready. And it was at 1:00, which, as you know, most of the games at Allegiant Stadium are at 1:00.
Yeah, that's perfect. Q also, our boy Q was signing autographs. I saw a couple of pictures. So shout out to you, Q, getting some love as well.
Man, Raider Nation is phenomenal. It was so funny. One person shouted me out from the show and was like, "Hey man, come over here." So I started chopping it up, and then they're like, "Hey man, sign my son's shirt or something like that." And so I was, all right, cool. And that one autograph turned into like 100 autographs, and security was like, "Hey man, we got to go."
Link, I'm sure you're used to that. You're
a star is born. Like that's Q. That's what we always get when I'm with Q. I mean, there are people who are going to sit there and ask for autographs. I'm chip meat. I'm nothing compared to Q. So I'm sitting in the presence of a great man right there. So I know how it feels. Good job, Q.
I gotta say, I'm with two legends right now. So, you guys got to get your flowers. But nonetheless, the mock game was very entertaining. Even just looking at it from an outside perspective, a lot of things went down. But I think we probably should touch on the fact that Lonnie Johnson did get injured in this, and obviously that is a big loss for the Raiders. Q, I believe it's a broken fibula, if I'm not mistaken. Link, your thoughts on that, because that is obviously a big loss for the Raiders secondary.
Unfortunate for the Raiders. Lonnie Johnson's been a guy who's been traveling around the league, known as pretty much a special teamer, but has shown some times to have some depth in the secondary, the second twos, and even started some stuff. But, it's really unfortunate. No coach ever wants to see injuries, possibly to guys who might make their roster. It's unfortunate, but at the same point, it's all part of it. And so, the mishap that happened, I think it was and Q, correct me if I'm wrong, Palomar had rolled up on the back of his leg, and that's how he went down. It's really unfortunate, but this is all the price you pay for this violent game.
Yeah, it is. And unfortunately, he was having a really good camp, too. He was the guy, as Lincoln said, has been like a special teams guy basically throughout the course of his career. But he was making some plays. Like every time I looked up, I saw, hey, here's an interception from Lonnie, or here's a pass breakup. Or he looked like he had an opportunity to play a role in that safety position. So it's really unfortunate that he went down. And you could see that it kind of took the air out of the stadium and took the air out of practice for a little while until they got it ramped back up. But that's natural. I mean, you see your brother go down. It's gonna be a gut punch at first.
And I mean, this is football, so injuries like that will happen not only now but continuously throughout the season. And I feel like this mock game was actually perfect for the Raiders because they're going through a whole entire, game day. Yeah. And I think that's something that Pete Carroll implemented that, in previous years, we weren't getting as Raider fans or even like the players. Link, how important is that just to know how your day is going to be on game day as a player?
Well, it's like orientation when you go to a new school or a new college. You get on campus and you get a chance to see what the lay of the land and what things are about. I think it's important so guys can move. Okay, here's the thing, Shad, telling you, you know this. We don't want our football players to think. Just go.
Yep.
Just go. I need you to go from here to there. And our lives are often regimented to a point to where you look at your schedule and you know where you're supposed to be at any given time. You just don't know how to do it. So this mock game takes you through that whole game situation. Getting over to the stadium, get in the locker room, figure out where your locker is, all the new guys. More importantly, for new coaches, getting that rhythm and that routine. It's important to have that little orientation before you go to it because, the Raiders play their first preseason game. You talked about Thursday up in Seattle. It's go time. It's time. We don't have time to look back. It's time to go.
Yeah, and Q, just your thoughts on the mock game because you saw Pete Carroll throw a challenge flag. The intensity was there, but this is also good for the players as well, just kind of knowing how that's going to go for them.
Yeah, they had a great time as well. Being on the field after the game and being able to talk to a handful of the players and even the coach, it was you could tell everyone was excited for that moment. And Lincoln's right. It's all about preparation. It's all about getting ready for a game week, and this is a game week. And even looking at the schedule for today for practice, it's competition. What is it? Hold on, let me look at it. It's competition Wednesday, right? It's Monday, but it's competition Wednesday. So again, they're preparing themselves for a game week. So yeah, it was going through all of that. There was a lot of really good play that you saw on the field. I'll tell you right now, man. I know a lot of people may be still kind of on the fence of who Geno Smith's going to be or what he's going to be. He looks locked in on this Chip Kelly offense. He looks really locked in, and 12 personnel that we were promised a lot of last year, I think we're going to see a lot of this year.
You guys, and I feel like you can't really put too much into like a mock game because it's not like they're going deep into the playbook, but you're kind of seeing, but exactly. Vanilla is the perfect word for it. And Link, we'll go to you first, just in terms of how important it is to have that mock game, but kind of go through essentially what the plays might be like vanilla wise, just getting that, rapport with your teammates. Like, what does that kind of do for you leading into a preseason game?
Well, it's a way for coaches to create a glorified practice. That's all it is. It's just practice. You know what I mean? And you're going out there, you're going up against the same guys that you've been going up against in training camp right now, but you're looking forward as preparation into a possible game week, how Pete Carroll might run things during that game week. Yeah, you have competition in the days where you're far away, you can, recoup from the practices, the padded practices. But the thing is that you're going through that routine to get them acquainted, to get them used to what is going to happen on game day. This is how we're going to move. This is where we're going to go from point A to point B, and just get into that rhythm. So, so it's a way of amping up practice, making practice seem like it's more important than it is, but it's still a way of getting guys used to what they need to be doing. Ain't that right, Q?
Yeah, and there's no doubt. It's funny. I was talking to Ian Thomas Friday after practice, and he said that what Pete Carroll has done really well, talking about the competition, is he'll get, it'll be a practice session. He'll get after it really hard. And then all of a sudden, right when it gets to a certain point, then he'll say, all right, let's do a jump ball routine. Or let's do this. It makes it fun, where it's something like, hey, I want to get in on this. And then all of a sudden after that jump ball, it's like, all right, let's get back to practice. Right. And so it's like that he has the kind of like the balance of how to really work this out. So everything that Lincoln's talking about, it's all practice, but he's making it seem like it's more than practice, or it's, it's fun where you don't really think about it. Like, oh wait, hold on, I'm working, right? I mean, it's one of those things where you really don't think about it. He's doing a great job of making that happen. And you could tell by the way that these guys are going and competing that they're all in and they're not dreading it. They're not dragging their shoulders. They're not looking like it's practice. They're looking like, hey man, this is fun. This is what we do.
And Chantel Q, I think this is what I've heard from Pete Carroll, people who have played for Pete Carroll at various at Seattle and the USC and stuff like that. They love his energy as a coach and the way he kind of it seems to not necessarily just change up the view or the direction of what you might equate as, oh, we got to get this work done. It's almost a necessary evil. Let's go out and have some fun with it. Now, those are things that keep players interested. They're small things, but they keep them interested and they keep them having fun.
Yeah. And here's the thing, like, even though it's a lot of fun, it's still a competition.
Yes.
Right. So it's still work. And obviously, Raider Nation, we're going to get to a comment right here because I definitely want to touch on this. And Top Beat says, have they talked about JPJ being moved from center to guard and how idiotic of a move that is? It's a big red flag to me. I'll say this. I can be negative sometimes as a Raiders fan, but Link, you're already laughing. Like, your thoughts on this, because I mean, when you were obviously in training camp and doing everything, were you ever moved on the line for your position?
Yeah. I mean, when I first came in the league, I played left guard. When drafted as a tackle out of Washington, played left guard first 2 seasons. Look, here's the thing. Let's let the coaches coach. Right. All right. Understand that. Let's let the coaches coach. There's a reason why they might be moving JPJ. It's not a foregone conclusion, but all signs point that way. And I'm sure Q will attest to that in a moment. But look, there's a reason why they're moving him to guard. You want to have your 5 best players on the football field at one time. Right. Okay. And so with JPJ versus Jordan Meredith, more of the prototypical size at center.
Yep.
Okay. More kind of fits that billing. Also, it creates depth. I think JPJ is going to be on the field. He might be better touted at guard. No slight to his ability. It might just be. Let the coaches coach. They're seeing him. They're evaluating. Let them put the 5 best guys on the field. And we as Raider fans and Raider Nation fans should just be happy that our coaching staff is going to do that. Yeah, you might not like the move as a seen on paper, but what's the harm if he's playing center or he's playing guard?
Right, exactly. As long as he's playing good, that's what you want.
Just play.
You want the best 5 out there, and I think you said it perfectly. Let's let the coaches coach. And so Jordan Meredith, obviously a smaller dude than JPJ. You want your maulers at the guard spot, so they probably see something in JPJ that they're thinking this guy could be a better center. We talked about it the last time we were on the show. I said there's a real world where Jordan Meredith and JPJ are both on the field at the same time. Not, either or, they're both on the field. So I don't have a problem with it. And it clearly doesn't look like either one of those guys has a problem with it either, because they're going out there and they're competing and they're doing what they need to do. I like it. And, it's funny. Our good friend Kirk Morrison told me at practice the other day, he said, look, man, when you go to the YMCA, man, and you put, I got 4 on the court already and I need 1 more. You don't say, hey, man, I can't play because I only play center, right? You say, hey, man, I want to get on the court. Right. I want to get on the court. Right. I'm just going to go play. We need ballers out there. And so I think that's the case. What they're trying to do. They're getting ballers out there on that offensive line. And that's a good thing.
Yeah. You guys said you want the best 5 out there. And I feel like it's actually good for the Raiders because now it's versatility. You have versatility, there's depth there and they can move around guys if they have to. But I don't necessarily think that this is a bad thing. Now, in terms of what you guys have seen from Meredith as a center at this point, what are your thoughts? Link, we'll go with you first.
He's getting better. He really is. This young man is coming to his own. He's found his groove. And I think it's safe to say he had, 6 starts last year, if I'm not mistaken. I don't have the notes right in front of me. But to see his growth, his maturation over the years, I think he's becoming a more all-around player. And the great thing about that, Chantel Q, is the fact that he could play center or he could play both guards. So if one of those guys go down, because depth is an issue coming into the season. This is an issue for me with this offensive line. Depth is an issue. If he can play one of those 3 spots, then he becomes what we call a swing man. It becomes invaluable.
That's the key. That's the biggest key right there. These guys can interchange. Right. If you need JPJ to go in there and play center, he can. If you need Meredith to go in there and play center, he can. That's the good thing. And so if you have all 5 of these guys, in lockstep, and the thing about it is Dylan Parham has been on the at the left guard spot the last couple of practices as well. So a guy that I feel like is really fighting for a roster spot has been holding it down at that left guard spot. So that's something to pay attention to as well. But if you have Miller, you have Parham, you have Meredith, you have JPJ, and you have DJ Glaze, and these guys, a couple of them are interchangeable. If somebody goes down, then you feel like you have the confidence to be able to slide another guy into that position. I think it's a valuable asset to have, and a great skill for both those guys to be able to play both parts.
Yeah, and it seems like Pete Carroll, obviously, he's going to be trying new things as well. In terms of the offense, right, we got to get to Geno Smith, and you kind of talked about him a little bit earlier. Did throw a couple of picks, right? Should we be worried there? Because at the same time, him and Brock Bowers look really, really good. The chemistry looks there. It seems like they've bought into this Chip Kelly offense. You know, there are some pros and cons, but in terms of Geno, because he is versatile, he is a mobile quarterback, I feel like we have to take a look at that as well. But Q, just your thoughts on what you saw from Geno out there.
He looked great. He really did. And he's thrown some picks throughout the course of training camp, but that's fine. You know, I'd rather the defense, go out there and make some plays right now, July and August, as opposed to, Geno throwing picks in September and October when it matters, right? I mean, he's still working out this Chip Kelly offense, but on Saturday, he looked fantastic, 4 drives, 4 touchdowns. And the thing about it is, and you mentioned his mobility, he has that ability, right? He can use his legs, but it's not something that he's going to lean on. So defenses have to prepare for it. A perfect example is at the end of the game on Saturday, they went for a 2-point conversion and he did an RPO and he ran it in. So defenses have to know that he can do that. So they have to know anywhere near the goal line, hey, maybe, okay, here goes an RPO. Well, now somebody has to stay because, Geno might actually run. They can't just assume, oh, no, he's not going to run because he doesn't have that ability. He has that ability, and it's been a very long time since the Raiders quarterback has had the ability or willingness to actually use his legs and run.
My biggest concern with Geno Smith coming into the season is red zone efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just, completing the ball when you're in the 25 going in. I think it's absolutely critical for the Raiders to have success here. One of the poorest teams in the league last year when it came to red zone efficiency. And Geno's time up in Seattle didn't really help his numbers. So that's going to be my biggest concern. Understanding the reads, understanding what space is available, and not necessarily taking unfounded risks, because there are more teams that want to back up and play defense in that area than be aggressive going after the quarterback. So and they're looking for an interception or a turnover. So that's where Geno's got to be mindful. But you said it, Chantel, earlier in Q. You talked about it. There's going to be a lot of 12 personnel, these guys.
Yep.
If they can get this offensive line going, and that'll help with the running game. We're going to talk about Ashton Jeanty in the running game in a little bit here, but there's going to be a lot of 2 tight ends, 2 wide receivers, and 1 back that are going to come out of this out of these sets with Chip Kelly.
Big Mike is looking good. Big Mike is looking good, right? We've all been waiting since he was drafted and the Raiders moved up in the second round to pick him up. We've been waiting for Big Mike to appear. He looks really good. He looked really good on Saturday. He's looked great in OTAs. He looked great in mandatory minicamp. He's looked great in training camp. He's had a hell of an offseason. So I hope that everything keeps trending in that right direction for Big Mike, because if he does, that 12 personnel that we're talking about is going to be nasty. And oh, by the way, they've got Ian Thomas as well in that tight end room. Like, they've got a very deep tight end room, very, very talented. So yeah, I expect to see a lot from the tight ends for the Raiders this year.
Finally, 12 personnel. We were waiting for it all season, last season, and now we're finally going to get it. So it's getting me hyped for, obviously, this season. And I think, you know what? I'm seeing a lot of in Pete Carroll we trust right now. I'm trusting Pete Carroll. But like Link said, we're going to get into Ashton Jeanty next. So keep it locked here on the Locked On Podcast Network. You're watching the Raiders or Raider Squad Show or listening to us. Remember to hit that like and subscribe button. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, we'll be back after we hear from our sponsors. Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape ginger and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink, minus the alcohol, into a quick energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with friends, this one's a hole-in-one for your energy game. And let's be honest, some days on the course or off of it, you just need that extra boost to stay sharp and energized. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm trash at golf. I'm decent at Top Golf, but one thing I'm a good time on the golf course, and that's all that really matters. And that's where you can have a lot of fun on the golf course as well. And sometimes you need that extra boost. Golf is all about good times with good people and good flavors. And of course, the grape ginger lime flavor gives you the best parts of your clubhouse to go without chasing down the bev cart. If you go to 5hourenergy.com today, That is the number 5hourenergy.com. You can use my promo code LOCKEDONGOLF to receive 20% off your first order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. So whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get energizing boost you need to power through. Order transfusion flavored 5-hour energy shots today. Welcome back, Raider Nation. Thanks so much for rocking with us. Remember, if you like that content, hit that like and subscribe button. We are going to be getting into Pete Carroll's bold statements. We're going to be getting into the wide receiver room, but I think we have to talk about Ashton Jeanty because we talked about the O-line, and you're only as good as your O-line. If they can get the O-line going, Ashton Jeanty can be a very, very big key piece for this Raiders offense. Link will go with you first. Right now, he's drawing a lot of comparisons, and I feel like that's a little bit unfair because we're not even going to know how he's going to look until he's out there in real game situations. But he's drawing comparisons to Saquon Barkley, who just, won a Super Bowl. Also a guy like Christian McCaffrey, and we know how good he was before he got injured and also ruined everyone's fantasy season. But Link, your thoughts on the comparisons already for Jeanty, and is the hype real for him?
The hype is real, but pump your brakes, people.
Yep.
We're in August. Pump your brakes. We haven't seen him play one down on a professional league level, so pump your brakes. Look, I'm as optimistic and excited as the next person. But if you talk about some of the people that you had mentioned, Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, you know what they had in their possession? Offensive lines that could block. You see what I'm saying? So we've got to get there. And though I do think the offensive line will be better, will be more improved than it was last year, it's still, you can't put the carriage in front of the horse. We got to see these things take place. Now, I do think potentially with this 12 personnel, with Chip Kelly being imaginative, there are going to be opportunities to get the football. But as we know, this offense is somewhat loaded with potential stars, and we'll talk about them throughout the season. So, I'm not trying to go poo-poo on anybody. I'm just saying, slow down, pump your brakes. Let's take all these things in stride. Let's not overhype the hype before we see it happen in first place.
Yeah, Lincoln's spot on when he says that. And it's funny. I mean, when you draft a guy number 6 overall, you're expecting him to be Saquon Barkley. You're expecting him to be Derrick Henry. You're expecting him to be Josh Jacobs, right, in Green Bay. You're expecting him to be that difference maker. And that's what the Raiders did. I mean, they went and got this guy and they said, hey, we're going to give this guy the ball early. We're going to give the ball often. But again, like Link said, I mean, until the offensive line comes together, until you actually see him, like we didn't even see him a lot on Saturday, right? I feel like that he's kind of that guy that they're trying to just make sure he gets to the regular season and gets ready to go. But I mean, he's chomping at the bits to get out there. He looks the part in practice. He looks fantastic, catching the ball in the backfield, returning punts. I mean, he's doing everything. So he's definitely a football player as far as like he's on that level. But until we actually see it in game action, we don't know. But I mean, the thoughts are that he's going to be that dude, right? And so that's what's exciting, and that's what has all the fan base all fired up every time they get to see him out there.
Is it kind of also tough on him, though, because if he doesn't have this breakout year, and that can't all be on him either, because like football is a team sport, right? Yep. Like everyone has to do their job. So I feel like sometimes it's a little bit unfair, but if he doesn't have a breakout season where he's that guy or one of the, top 5 running backs in the league, is that going to be a huge disappointment for them? Like what would be a successful season for him? Link, will go with you first.
Quantifying a successful season, I think the basic would start, you want to have at least 1,000-yard rusher, which is not hard to get when you talk about 17 games and stuff like that. Do the math. But I would be careful of saying expectations are too high, because what's practical and realistic for you? Being drafted number 6 overall, right. Are you expected to come in to be a star boy? When you don't have all the intangibles, because much as you said, Chantel, it's a team game. So Ashley can't go up there and block for himself while he's carrying the football. So there are things that you have to put in perspective. So, I mean, and when you talk about the standards, like Saquon Barkley just set last year, going over 2,000 yards, I mean, come on, let's be fair. Right. Let's be practical. What's realistic? He's not going to have those type of numbers, I don't think. I mean, it would be great if he did. I mean, that would translate into a bunch of wins, but let's be practical and realistic. So to answer your question, I mean, I would, if I'm Ashton, I'm not putting too much pressure on myself. I'm just going to go out there and do my job and give it my best. But I do understand the logistics of this. There will be running back by committee. I don't expect him to carry the ball over 300 times this year or even get close to that. With that being said, with the one football and the way this offense seems to be apparent and the other pieces they have, but can he be valuable when he's out there and when he does his thing? That's going to be the key, and I think that's what I expect for that young man.
You know, the first thing, a successful season for Ashton Jeanty would be playing all 17 games, right? I mean, that's the thing about it. Like, you need that guy out there. He's going to be the difference maker. With Jeanty on the field, everyone has to pay attention, right? Like Lincoln said, it used to be like 1,000 yards was, man, the running back had a great season. He went over 1,000 yards. I mean, it's 17 games now, so it's not really that big of a benchmark anymore. I think that him getting through the season healthy, him having, over 1,000 yards rushing, him having a handful of yards receiving as well, he's just a difference maker. So you need to see him on the field. Again, when you see two out there, then right? Defenses are going to pay attention. You always wonder, okay, who is the defense keying in on? All right, well, 89, they're definitely going to key in on him. Number 2, they're going to key in on him. So if you have that right there, you can't really load up the box because 89 will beat you. You can't really shade 89 too much because 2 will beat you, right? I mean, so there's multiple ways of doing it. And in college, I mean, look, Boise State wasn't the spot that had the best offensive line. Ashton Jeanty was a BYOBer, right? Bring your own blocker. He was that guy, right? I mean, he was able to make things happen. So I'm excited about his opportunity, but knowing that it's a team game and he's only going to go as far as Lincoln always says, the offensive line allows him to go.
And let's keep it in mind, the Mountain West is a little bit different than the AFC East or the West. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying. Okay.
It's not like he's been playing at Alabama.
Exactly.
I mean,
this is no slight. I don't want to have the Boise State. Don't want any alumni calling me. This is no slight on them.
Right.
I'm just calling it like I see it, people.
Just a different ball game. Simple.
But that's actually a really good point, right? Because like he's playing in the Mountain West and then you're making the adjustment to being in the NFL. You're playing in the AFC West. And also, I think we have to keep in mind, like, this was a Raiders O-line that really struggled last year. They couldn't get the run game going. So when you take a look at those factors, and Q will go with you first on this one, like if he doesn't have a 1,500-yard season, right? Because like it's a new offense too. And he's coming into it. So he's going to have to make the adjustments as a rookie. And like you said, we didn't get to see him too much on Saturday. So how difficult do you think that will be on him? And at the same time, like, do you see him making those adjustments and being successful?
I mean, I'll tell you, I'll be shocked if he goes for 1,500 yards. I would be shocked because this running back room is deep. I mean, that's the other thing about it. They have so much talent. Right, Raheem Mostert's been a touchdown machine his whole career, and then you've got a healthy Sincere McCormick and a slim down Zamir White. These guys look phenomenal. Like, these guys are no slouches. So I mean, I'm wondering how this competition in this room's going to go. Like, we know Jeanty's a lock, but what or who is after him? Right? Is Mostert going to be that guy? Is Sincere going to be that guy? Is Zamir going to be that guy? And they still got Dylan Lobby from last year, who I think only makes the roster by way of special teams because that running back room is so thick. So I would be shocked if he goes for 1,500 yards. I don't think they're going to give him the ball that many times to get him close to 1,500. I think, you're looking around 1,200, 1,250 yards, whatever. I think that's reasonable. Look, the Raiders can't be 32nd in rushing. That's what they were last year. Everything across the board when it came to the run game was 32nd. They can't be that. If if he's a top 10 running back this year, the Raiders have had a really good season, right? Because he's been able to do what he needs to do, and the offensive line has done what they need to do.
Look, you've got one football, right? And most offenses during an NFL game will see the football maybe 65 to 72 games, 72 plays a game, maybe 75 plays a game, depending on how efficient they are. With that being said, you got Brock Bowers, you got Jakobi Meyers, you've got Michael Mayer, you've got Ashton Jeanty, you've got Raheem Mostert, all the people that we're talking about, all the playmakers. And you got a quarterback in Geno Smith who's got to find a way to get it out to everyone. This is going to be this is a good problem to have.
Yeah.
Because all defenses can't key on everyone. So with that being said, what's practical, what's realistic. And that's why I said this young man, Ashton Jeanty, needs to stay comfortable within his own skin. Don't try to do too much. Don't try to push too much. Don't try to always get all those extra yards because you've got to be available for all 17 games. And that's the biggest thing about being a pro on this level is being available when you're needed.
Yeah, and I love that would be a successful season for him to play all 17 games. Yeah. But also when you factor in the fact that there is Brock Bowers, like Link said, there's only one ball. So do you think Jeanty could be like, let's not think about Brock Bowers because we know what he's going to be to the offense, right? Could he be that number 2 option on this offense? And would you believe that he would be? Because the run game is going to open up the pass game, obviously. So would you guys believe he would be like that number 2 option on that offense?
I think he's going to be the number 1 option. I think it's going to all start with the running game. To be honest, I think that's going to, like you said, open it up for everybody else. But Pete Carroll, we know what he wants to do. Go back and look at his history. Go back to college. Go back to the NFL. What he wants to do is run the ball. He wants to be that team that everyone in the stadium knows that they're going to run the ball, and they still can have the chance to run the ball and be dominant. That's what he wants to do. It all starts right there with the run game. So I think Jeanty's the number 1 option, and then that opens it up for everybody else. That's when Bowers eats. That's when Meyers eats. That's when Big Mike eats. That's when you take a shot at Dante Thornton. And don't sleep on Trey Tucker, right? Trey Tucker is a guy that's been very, very active in training camp, and he's looking the part, looking like they're actually using him in different ways as opposed to just a one-trick pony like he's been so far in his career. So, yeah, everyone eats after Ashton Jeanty gets going.
You know, Chip Kelly is one of the more creative offensive coordinators out there in the league now, and even when he was in college. And a lot of things that he did at Ohio State, I'm going to see a lot of similarities what he was wanting to bring to the Raiders. They ran a lot of 12 personnel in Ohio State as they went for a national championship last year. So you're going to see a lot of that, in my opinion. And it's just a question of how you can delegate and keep everyone appeased. Because the last thing you want is a superstar coming to the sideline, man, I ain't touched the ball in a cold quarter and all this other stuff, you know, and being things shocked like that. So, you know, this is going to be a way for Chip Kelly to be as creative as he needs to be, get the ball in all different ways. But more importantly, you want to make Geno Smith feel comfortable. Like, look, you got weapons out there. You don't need to rely on number 2. You don't need to rely on finding Brock Bowers. The thing is a running game is a quarterback's best friend. Yep. And every coach that I've ever played for says, I want to run the football first. There have been very few that came out and said, oh, we're just going to throw it around, see how it goes. No, they want to run the football because they want to be able to set up the pass. If we're going to see a lot of 12 personnel, the tight ends are going to have to be able to block and be able to block in space, and especially the perimeter to stretch those runs. But it'll open up a lot more opportunities of stretching down the field if the run game does take hold.
Now, they're also saying that Ashton Jeanty could be all-pro this year, which is still, again, a lot of pressure. Link, when you were coming into the NFL, you had your success winning a national championship at UW. Like, there was probably a lot of pressure on you coming into the league too. Like, how did you handle that?
Well, the first thing you want to do is not be written off as a bust out there play. Yeah. But the thing is, Chantel and Q, the game is still football, but it's a little different from the college level. And it took me a while to get used to the speed of the game on the professional level, and then learn how to be a pro. I really don't put a lot of emphasis in those awards types of things. I think, of course, you want them. Everybody wants to be successful. But if you're coming into a new situation, new team, and for, Ashton Jeanty, the Raiders didn't win very many games last year. That's the reason why you were picked number 6 overall. What do you really expected? And we do know that it's usually the teams that are successful that use the players get the most accolades. That's just the way it is. Brock Bowers, a little different, obviously, from his rookie year, what he's able to achieve, and noticeably so, well deserved. But it's not seen every day for someone to go, all pro when you have a losing record.
Yeah, that's the reality of it. We talk about that all the time. Like if the Raiders had a really good record last year, Brock Bowers would have really been in the competition with Jaden Daniels for Offensive Rookie of the Year. No doubt. But they didn't. They won 4 games, and the Commanders went to, the championship game, the NFC championship game. So that's the reality of it. Winning teams are going to be the teams that are going to get the accolades and get all the awards. The thing is, though, with Ashton Jeanty, and I like how Lincoln said, the speed of the game is something that all of a sudden caught up to him when he got into the league. Look, there's times when you would see Ashton Jeanty run away from everybody, right? There's going to be a linebacker that's going to catch up to him, and he's, whoa. Oh, that guy, wait, hold on. That guy just did what, right? That's going to be the welcome to the NFL moment. When a linebacker runs him down or catches up to him or pushes him out of bounds, he's, wait, hold on. That ain't supposed to happen. That guy's supposed to be in my rearview mirror, but this is the best of the best. That's the difference of it, right? That's the difference from the college level to the NFL level. All these guys are super fast now. All these guys are super strong. All these guys are super talented. At some point in their careers, in their football careers, I say this all the time, they were the best of the best, whether that was high school, college, whatever the case may be. They were the best player on their team, and that goes for every one of them. That's the reality of it that I think a lot of NFL fans don't understand sometimes. Every single one of these guys on their roster, at some point in their life was the best football player on their team.
Yeah, that's a really good point there, Q. And we're going to talk about some of those players coming up in the next segment because we're going to dive deep into the wide receiver room. So keep it locked here on the Locked On Podcast Network. You're watching or listening to the Raiders Squad Show. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Game Time comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Game Time makes it possible. Game Time makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop closer as you get to first pitch, and they've got incredible last minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. Game Time is the official ticketing partner of Locked On Major League Baseball, making it easy to browse the app for an exciting upcoming Major League Baseball game. And obviously, you know, I'm here on the West Coast, so the Mariners, they just played the Rangers, and it was super easy to just find a game on the Game Time app. And as you do get closer to first pitch, like sometimes tickets even drop to under $10. So that's how cheap it can be. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Welcome back, Raider Nation. Thanks so much for rocking with us. Remember, if you like the content, hit that like and subscribe button. It helps the channel grow. Raider Nation, we have to get into the wide receiver room because I feel like there's lots of questions heading to this year. And I think the biggest question is, do the Raiders have enough depth in this group at wide receiver? And of course, we've talked. Okay, so great. So Q is already hyped. So Q, like, you feel like the Raiders shouldn't go out and get a superstar wide receiver, or okay? Well, tell me your thoughts. Why?
Well, first of all, who's out there that you're going to go get that's going to get you excited, right? At this stage of the game, there's no one to get you excited. But this is something that I've been talking about quite a bit on the Locked On Raiders podcast, is the fact that there was only two teams in 2024 that had two pass catchers that went over 1,000 yards: the Lions and the Raiders. That was it. Out of 32 teams, only two went out over 1,000 yards. Brock Bowers and Jakobi Meyers did it for the Silver and Black. Obviously, the Raiders only won 4 games, but the Lions, they were really good, as we know, right? And they also had a top 6 rushing attack. So that's what excites me. They have two guys in Brock and Jakobi that have the ability to go over 1,000. I'm not saying they're going to go over 1,000 this year, or that's my expectations, but they have the ability to do that. And then you sprinkle in Big Mike. You sprinkle in a guy like Trey Tucker, who, again, is going into year 3. That allows a guy like Jack Bech and Dante Thornton to not have to be relied on, like, you have to be this guy. No, you can develop into that guy. And the rest of the league has shown you don't necessarily need. The Chiefs went to the Super Bowl. They didn't have a 1,000-yard pass catcher at all. Travis Kelce was their leading receiver last year with like less than 900 yards. Right? I mean, you don't have to necessarily have a guy who's an alpha at that position to go 1,200, 1,300, 1,400. You don't really need that guy. The whole league showed you that. Again, only 2 teams, the Lions and the Raiders, had 2 pass catchers that went over 1,000 yards. So the Raiders have the guys in-house right now that can get it done. And with Chip Kelly as an actual really good offensive coordinator, I believe in what he's going to do is spread the ball around between the running game, the passing game. I think the Raiders have what they need. They're not deep. Now, you know, depth is always a thing. If they start getting injuries, well, that's another conversation. But as it stands right now, no, they don't need to go out and make any moves.
I think that's the reason why we're going to see a lot more 12 personnel. I think the wide receiver room is deep enough. I don't think there's anybody, much to Q's point, I don't think there's anyone that stands out like, oh, we have to really make a play for them, for that person or that guy. But here's the thing. They have to become more efficient. And I've always thought, you know, the chemistry between a quarterback and wide receiver is developed in somewhat over time, a short amount of time. But I think where Geno Smith has come in from the OTAs to the mini camp to now training camp, you've seen that progression that he's had with these receivers, and they've been able to come together, and he's made some great throws. I read about this past week going in, which is all good signs that we want to see. Now we want to see this offense come together. So Chantel and Q, I think I agree with Q. I think they have enough at the wide receiver position to make waves to really go through this season and be effective and productive.
Geno, he's on the same page with Brock too. Let me just go ahead and jump in there. What I saw on Saturday at Allegiant Stadium, this dude and Brock, they're picking up where Brock left off at the end of his rookie year. Like they look like they're well in sync, and that with Big Mike too. I mean, Geno was threading the needle to Big Mike, so he got very involved. So yeah, I'm excited by that. Seeing it in my own eyes, what they're doing is, to me, it's pretty exciting.
And just a little added caveat before we jump on. Look, both Brock Bowers and Jakobi Meyers have extreme catch radiuses. And what I mean by that, you put the ball in the general direction, they find a way to come up with it. They're both good at that, and they're both productive at it. That can be a quarterback's best friend, because even if there's an errant throw, I still find a way. If I can put it in position for my receiver to make a play, it can happen more times than a turnover. So that's a good sign too.
Yeah, and you know, you talked about Jakobi Meyers, and he's great in the end zone. That's the red zone is kind of where Geno really struggled last season, kind of where he made some mistakes. And I said, Raider Nation, we would get to some of your comments. Isaiah R says, yeah, I think Meyers is going for over 1,000 yards. He should have a solid year. Q, your thoughts on that? Can he be that number one wide superstar receiver for the Raiders?
I think so. I really do. I mean, the guy doesn't put the ball on the ground, which is what you want, right? You want the guy that is going to be reliable, and he's going to do everything that he has to do, including the blocking. He'll do the dirty work as well without complaining. You never see Jakobi Meyers with his shoulders dropped, his head dropped. You never see him pouting across the field like former Raider wide receivers that have been in the building before have done. He doesn't do that. And you know, the other thing about it is so funny. Kadri Ishmael, and you know him very well, Lincoln. He's been at practice. I was hanging out with him for a few days because he's watching his son, Kadir, who's the tight end on the Raiders right now. And every time Jakobi made a catch, he would look at me and say, "Yeah, and that's the guy that you're calling number 2, huh?" Every time, every single thing. This is from a wide receiver. He played the position. So like Lincoln, when he talks about the offensive line, my ears are wide open. When a guy who played the wide receiver position at a very high level is talking to me about this, I'm paying attention. So when he's like, hey man, you keep calling him number 2, but all he does is keep making number 1 catches. That's a wide receiver. That's not my words. That's a former wide receiver that did it at a high level, has a ring to prove it. Right.
Well,
so that's all I got to hear.
I'm sorry to just cut you off, Q, but I'm really excited now because I'm hearing 1,500-yard running back, 1,000-yard receiver, yards. Like we are the greatest things since sliced bread.
Geno threw for 4,000 plus yards last year. Just saying.
I know, I get it, and I hear it, and certainly I want this team to be successful all there. But I mean, here's the thing: we got to see them come into their own. We got to see them come into playing against other people, and it is not going to be an easy schedule. There are going to be trials and tribulations for this team this season, and a lot of players. But you know, where they don't have a lot of depth, like the wide receiver room. It's going to come into the key of how they can play effectively, and who stands up when another guy might be dinged up or might be down.
Right. Yeah, and I kind of like the group that they have and not going for a superstar wide receiver, because I feel like I have PTSD from like Devontae Adams and like Antonio Brown, right? Like that worried me when they went out and they got one. Like it just hasn't worked out as of late. So I want to get into the young guys, because I feel like the Raiders are going to count on the rookies. They're going to count on a guy like Besh. They're going to count on a guy like, Thornton Jr. So when it comes to those guys as rookies to having to step up, and also if you go get a superstar wide receiver, then you're kind of taking away snaps from them. So how important is it for, a guy like Jack Besh, who I feel like he's not getting talked about as much as Thornton Jr. But, what have you guys heard about Jack Besh so far? Q, we'll go with you first.
I mean, he's one of those guys. He's a solid route runner. He's a tough dude. Like, he's gonna block. He's that tough guy. He plays special teams, right? He's gonna go down and hit you. I think Jack Besh is a guy you'll see him go over the middle and not shy away from anyone. Matter of fact, there might be defenders that are kind of concerned about him coming across the middle because the way that he's physical. But see, the thing about it is, and going back to just the wide receiver room, that's the beauty of it. I don't think that the Raiders have to rely on these young guys as much as people think, because they have guys like Bowers, and they have guys like Myers, and they have guys like Big Jack or Big Mike and then Trey Tucker as well, where they can allow Jack Besh and they can allow Thornton to evolve into an NFL wide receiver. So I don't think early in the season you're going to see a lot from those guys, but around week 10, week 11, I think they're going to start to really make their name known, right? And Thornton, just because he's the big play guy, I think you'll see him kind of in that DK Metcalf role that you saw in Seattle, where it's a big play. All right, they're going to stretch the field. All right, they're going for Thornton. Like, that's where he'll step up. But these other guys are there. These guys are already proven, and they're not rookies, right? I mean, Brock Bowers is a second-year guy. He's one of the best tight ends in the league, if not the best tight end in the league. So I think that they have an opportunity that people are kind of sleeping on. They're just looking at the room saying, oh, they're going to have to rely on these young guys. I don't think so. I think they're going to take their time getting these young guys involved.
Jack Best reminds me a lot of Tim Brown and his route running ability. He's a solid possession receiver. Now, of course, he doesn't have all the praises of Timmy and Hall of Famer, but he's certainly up there. And I think he has the potential to really do some things, much to Q's point, being able to stretch the middle of the field where there are lots of real estate for you to explore. That comes a time where you're looking for that 3rd down and 5, 3rd down and 4 or 5, 6 yards where you want to go to your true possession receiver. And I think you have that in Jack Best. I also see a lot of, growth out of Trey Tucker and his ability to fit into this offense. I think this is a critical year for him. So much to the point we're speaking on, guys, I think the wide receiver room is solid at its core. They need to find a way, obviously, to stay healthy throughout the season, like every position. But I do like the direction of where they're going so far.
Yeah, you mentioned Trey Tucker. I think it's safe to say it's a make or break year for him.
Yes.
Right?
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do they need to see from Trey Tucker? Because there's only one football. And also at the same time, he's one of the older guys compared to like Besh and obviously Thornton Jr., right? So he kind of has to show out this season along with Jakobi Meyers, who we all have been praising. So if you're Trey Tucker, like what type of season do you need from him? And it is a make or break season for him. So there's a lot of pressure on a young guy like him. Q, we'll go with you first.
I just think he needs to do more than what he's been doing. I mean, he's been a one-trick pony. Like we've really been able to see him just try to stretch the field, and for one reason or the other, a lot of times he runs open, but the quarterback can't get him the ball, right? Or they don't even attempt to get him the ball. But having him be more than just that guy that's trying to stretch the field and run go routes, I think that's where he really evolves. Like, you can do wide receiver screens to him because you have guys in front of him that are willing to do the blocking in front, and that will pick up 10, 15 yards pretty quickly. You can see him do the intermediate routes. I mean, the speed he's got, defenders are going to back off. And so when he starts running, he can break it off, and all of a sudden it's just a comeback route, and he's able to get open. Like, if you start to see him evolve his route tree and be involved in more than just the go route, that's when I think that Trey Tucker is having a successful season.
There's got to be more wild plays. And what I mean by that is when you see him out there in the football field, no matter what he's doing, running a reverse, wide receiver screen. Wow. Did you see? We got to get the ball to him. That's what you're looking for. You got to have more wild plays, because when you're on a team that's as deep as the Raiders are offensively, as we said, there's only one football. There are going to be plenty of others that are going to have wild plays. And how do you fit into the scheme? Because you want to make yourself relevant in Chip Kelly's mind, or the offensive development as the season goes on. So there's got to be a lot more wild plays from Trey Tucker this season.
Raider Nation, coming up next, we're going to get into Pete Carroll's bold statements, because he's making some crazy statements that I feel like, 1,500-yard season. We're talking about the wideouts. There's some depth, lots of excitement here for Raider Nation. That's coming up in the next segment. Keep it locked here on the Locked On Podcast Network. You're watching or listening to the Raiders Squad Show. Welcome back, Raider Nation. Pete Carroll has brought a lot of excitement to this Raiders organization, and he's also making some very, very bold statements. He said this past weekend, quote, "We're going to win a lot of games," end quote. He said some more stuff as well. But this is a very bold statement, and I feel like it could either go, left or right? It could be a really good thing because there's all the confidence, but if it doesn't pan out the way that Raider Nation and we all want it to, I feel like those comments could come back to bite him, right? So, Link, you're already smiling. You're already smiling right now. So your thoughts on Pete Carroll already making those statements? Like, it's good to have confidence, but is this like too much confidence, because they won 4 games last year?
What would be right? What if you're a coach, you come out and say, well, we won 4 games last year. We're gonna go for 6 or 7.
We're gonna be all right.
We're gonna be all right. We're just gonna go through the motions. Nobody wants to hear that. Obviously, you want your coach to have confidence. Obviously, you want your team to have confidence. You want you feeling like you're the kings of the world. You want to take on everybody, and that's the sort of image that you want to perpetuate. And because every player accepts the image from his coach, this is what's handed down. This is what's passed through the locker room. This is I want to feel this way. Yeah, heck yeah, we're going to go out there. We're going to beat everybody. We're going to beat everybody by 25 points.
Yep.
Okay, that's what I expect him to say, and that's what I want him to say. But I don't put too much glamour into that. What about you, Q?
No, I mean, look, Pete Carroll's a winner, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's won wherever he's gone, and that's what he said. My expectations are to do the same thing I've always done, which is win. He's never had a season where he's won less than 7 games. So, when I look at the Raiders and I say, all right, they won 4, okay, my expectations are at least 8 wins, right? Because I think that this roster is going to give them, the ability to win 8 games. They're going to prepare themselves and be competitive in every single game. Like, I don't expect to see a game like the Panther game last year, week 3, where the Panthers walked into Allegiant Stadium and did whatever they wanted to the Raiders. Like, I don't expect to see that. I expect to see them prepared and ready to go. So if you all of a sudden, if you say, hey, this team's going to win at least 8 games, then there's a couple games that, you're never going to be favored in that you might jump up and win. Now, also, you're looking at double digits. If you're looking at double digits, you're a playoff team, right? And so that's what Pete Carroll's expectations are. The good thing about the statements that he made, every player that we've talked to since then has said, I'm backing up my coach. My coach said we're going to go win 10 games. We're about to go win 10 games. We're going to go win 12 games. Whatever the case may be, we're about to go shock a lot of people. And that's from everyone. Devin White, Jamal Adams, Ian Thomas, like Amari Gaynor, like every player that I've talked to, and I've talked to a bunch of them one-on-one after practice, they've all told me the same thing. We are going to do what nobody expects, and it's led by that dude right there in Pete Carroll.
Am I forgetting something? Didn't Pete Carroll coach a 7-9 team in the playoffs?
And they won a game in the playoffs.
And they won a game. They beat New Orleans. That's right. Up at Seattle.
That would be the cheesecake play.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I mean, so, yeah, anything is possible. Of course, we want to see them get to the promised land by any means necessary, but we're dealing with a very difficult division. We're dealing with a very difficult conference. I expect my coach to have that confidence.
You should.
I really do. I expect my coach to come with that confidence. I expect my entire coaching staff to have that confidence. I expect my quarterback to have that confidence. Everyone in that locker room needs to have that confidence, because that's the sort of strut that I want to see when you walk in the locker room. We're ready to go.
Yep.
Yeah, and that all goes into buying in.
Yes.
And I feel like Pete Carroll has made everyone buy into what he's doing, and you can kind of see it from the outside perspective looking in. You guys are very close with this Raiders organization, so obviously you know a little more than maybe Raider Nation does, right? So what have you guys seen in terms of the buy-in from the players and what you're hearing? Q, will go with you first.
Man, 10 toes down. I mean, that's just the way to put it, man. I mean, these guys are all in. And look, I've been around the team. I've been here in Vegas since 2021. So I've seen many different training camps, from John Gruden to Josh McDaniels to Antonio Pierce and now Pete Carroll. This is completely different than anything I've seen. And that's not a slight to any of those other coaches. They're all coaches for a reason. They've all done a really good job in the league at some spot in their career. But, man, this has just been different with Pete Carroll, and the way that he has the competition set up, and the way that guys, even in practice 8, 9, 10, are still fired up. They're excited. They want to stay and do extra reps. Like, I see these guys doing extra reps after practice every single day. They're excited to go to work. They're excited to go stand in the 105-degree heat and compete, right? I mean, they love every minute of it, and just the environment that he's created is different than anything I've ever seen here in Las Vegas. So I think that the Raiders have something good going and brewing.
Players will buy in if it translates into wins. And right now you have that early sort of, that confidence that's going about it. I've never had a coach that came in and said, are you with me? I'm going to ride with you until it proves that your theory or your way doesn't work. And then we have to find something else. But everybody wants to win. Every player wants to win. So they're buying with that confidence. That confidence becomes infectious. And that's what you see going around the facility these days. That's what you see going around Raider Nation. That's what you saw at Allegiant Stadium for the mock game. I mean, it's a glorified scrimmage, really. But you're bringing in people, and they're sitting there eager and anticipating, wanting to watch their team play. And that's what's going to happen. So it has to just translate into wins. And we'll see Thursday night against Seattle how that translates, even though it's preseason. We'll see how it translates. That energy translates on the football field.
The other thing about buy-in, though, is also how you handle your business. And so you look around the league and you see drama. You hear noise. You hear the Cowboys and what's going on with Micah Parsons. Are they going to trade him? Are they not? You see Trey Hendrickson in Cincinnati holding out. You saw what happened in Cleveland with Myles Garrett for a while. Like, you hear a lot of noise around the league. Terry McLaurin in Washington wants a contract. The Raiders have handled their business, right? The week of the Super Bowl, Max Crosby was walking around in New Orleans talking about, well, we'll see what happens. Contracts got to get taken care of. I also need to see and hear the plan that these guys have. Boom. All of a sudden, they got the deal done in March, right? They got that taken care of. No distraction there, right? There's been no, and I know the Christian Wilkins situation is a situation, but that's also, they nipped that in the bud. Boom, it's gone, right? All right, they moved on from Christian Wilkins. Now they got the whole, grievance thing that they've got to take care of, but that's them. I'm not worried about their money and all that. That's whatever. That's going to work out in the wash. But they don't have any of these side stories, right? I mean, you have 49ers wide receivers requesting trades because they don't have a contract. They don't have any issues going on. Like, they took care of that. Colton Miller wasn't an issue. He came to work. He got extended. Jakobi Meyers, they're working on that right now. That's probably going to happen sooner rather than later. Like, Jakobi Meyers is probably going to get his deal done. Daniel Carlson, probably the same thing. They don't have any of these sideshows going on. It's all about business, and that also helps the buy-in. When you see your leaders buy in, like a Max Crosby, then you're good to go. Hey, if he's riding with these guys, I'm riding with these guys.
Like, Link, was that kind of how it was for you when there was a coaching change, and obviously you had to buy in, but you saw, like, when you bought in, did other guys buy in automatically as well?
Yeah, I mean, your players will follow the leaders in the locker room, whomever they are. And if you believe in a coach, they're going to tend to believe in a coach. Now, it's not unanimous across the board, but you have a better way of convincing if you have players that are in your locker room that are captains or somewhat senior leaders that can, perpetuate your vibe sort of throughout the locker room. You know what I mean? Push your vibe throughout there. So that's important. But every coach I've ever played for, first meeting of the day, walked in like, I want you to buy into my program. I want you to trust me. I'm going to lead you to the promised land. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't.
I also want to know if, like, any coach has thrown a challenge flag in a mock game, because that was hilarious. Like, I don't think I've seen that before. Has anyone else done that?
I've not seen that.
Okay, yeah. And Q, you kind of mentioned, like, there's no sideshow, right? There's nothing else going on. But you mentioned somebody, and I have to ask, because people are talking about it. Should the Raiders go for someone like Micah Parsons?
No.
Okay.
It's just unrealistic. I mean, look, him and Max would be phenomenal. Like, in a dream scenario, like, yeah, I would love to see Micah Parsons and Max Crosby, but could you imagine what it would cost this team? Right?
A bunch of picks.
Think about what Khalil Mack got traded for. Think about the return that the Raiders got. That was how many years ago? So, yesterday's price is not today's price. And could you imagine Micah Parsons coming into a Raiders organization and having to get paid more than Max Crosby? What message is that being sent? Like, that was part of the issue when Christian Wilkins joined the team, right? It's like, hey man, he just got this big deal. Wait, hold on. I'm Max Crosby. I've been here this whole time doing this. I need to get my money. So yeah, I mean, it's just not realistic. Yeah, in a dream scenario, in an all-star, AAU style ball, yeah, sure, that'd be fantastic. But it's just not realistic.
I personally believe that being around Jerry Jones and being around the Cowboys organization has somewhat tainted Micah Parsons in a sense where he has to be vocally a standout.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want that in my locker room right now. I don't want you talking about what you've got or what you ain't got or what we're doing. I've seen so much over the last couple of years. Now, Michael can be a great guy. I don't know him personally. I've only seen him from a film standpoint. But I would be careful as to the aspect that I'm bringing in my locker room because I don't need a distraction.
No.
You've got a young team that is connecting in many ways. The last thing you need is a boisterous distraction that comes in there and breaks the fabric apart, because then all the work you've done to put it together now becomes unwavering and it falls apart. You don't want that.
Yep. That's exactly what that buy-in is all about, right? You have to have the buy-in. You don't need that like Lincoln said, a boisterous guy. Look, there's three styles of team in the league. I've been talking about this for a long time. Serious, unserious, and for entertainment purposes only. The Cowboys are the third. Entertainment purposes only, right? We talk about them, we laugh at them, we look at them, but they're not serious, right? The Raiders for a long time have been a very unserious team as well. They've been trying to be serious, but every move they've made has made them be unserious. Now, with the staff that they got in place, led by John Spytek and Pete Carroll, they are in the full serious mode. And that's refreshing to see them as a serious organization in the NFL.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, I feel like the Cowboys always get America's game. They're always nationally televised. They're always on the NFL Network. Raider Nation
entertaining. They're entertaining, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, you can definitely see that. But I still think the Raiders need more love on the NFL Network. I will say that much. And Raider Nation, they don't talk
win games.
Yeah, they don't talk about Raider Nation enough. We deserve the coverage on the NFL Network. I'm just saying that. So obviously, coming up next for the Raiders is going to be their preseason game. in Seattle against Pete Carroll's former club. He's going back to Seattle. That's going to be a huge game. That's going to be something we'll be breaking down, I believe, on Thursday, guys, if it works for you.
Yep. Done.
All right, we're letting Raider Nation know we'll be back Thursday, 7:30 a.m. Pacific time, 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. We're going to be breaking down that preseason game and what to look forward to. Also, if any news comes up this week for training camp, we'll have you all covered there. Remember, if you like the content, hit that like and subscribe button. Also, follow us on our social media channels. But you heard it from Q and Link here. The Raiders don't need Micah Parsons.
No.
Exactly. And that's what we're going to go out on. Thanks so much for rocking with this, Raider Nation. We'll be back on Thursday. Remember, it'll be 7:30 a.m. Eastern time, 10:30 a.m. Sorry, 7:30 a.m. Pacific time, 10:30 a.m. Eastern time if there's Raider Nation on the East Coast. We'll talk to you then, Raider Nation.